There's a place on Earth that costs more than a small country. Only 5 people have ever been inside. And if you tried to find it right now, you'd never succeed. But the truth behind this place will shock you. This isn't some fancy mansion you can see from space. This isn't a private island on Google Maps. This is something completely different. Something most people don't even know exists. What I'm about to show you is the most secret billionaire hideout ever created. And the lengths they went to keep it hidden will blow your mind. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 3 things that sound impossible but are 100% real. First, where this hideout is located and why finding it is basically impossible. We're talking about a place that doesn't appear on any map, any satellite photo, or any government record. It's like a ghost. Second, what's actually inside this place. The luxury, the technology, the security systems that cost more than most people make in their entire lives. Wait until you hear about the gold vault and the escape tunnel. Third, and this is the craziest part, who owns it and why they built it. The reason isn't what you think. It's not about showing off. It's about something way more serious. Something that should make all of us think. The information I'm sharing comes from a leaked document that was never supposed to go public. From interviews with 2 of the 5 people who've been inside. And from an investigation that took 3 years to complete. This story has everything. Mystery, billions of dollars, secret technology, and a truth that connects to your life in ways you won't expect. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Let's start with what we know for sure. And trust me, even the basic facts sound crazy. In 2019, something strange happened in the remote mountains of Patagonia. That's the bottom part of South America, one of the most isolated places on Earth. Rocky mountains, freezing cold, barely any people live there. A construction company got hired for a mysterious project. They were told to bring materials to a specific location. But here's the weird part. They had to wear blindfolds during the last part of the trip. Yes, actual blindfolds. The workers could only see the small area where they were building. Armed guards watched them all the time. Their phones were taken away, no pictures allowed. They couldn't talk about what they saw. The project took 4 years to finish. It cost about $2.3 billion. That's more than it cost to build a huge sports stadium. When it was done, the workers got paid massive bonuses. But they had to sign papers saying they'd never talk about it. If they did, they'd lose everything and get sued. Most stayed quiet. But 2 workers, years later, gave secret interviews. And what they described sounds like a movie. They talked about building rooms deep underground, installing technology they'd never seen before, creating spaces that looked like they came from the future. And the security? Unlike anything they'd ever experienced. One worker said, "I've built houses for movie stars and CEOs. But this was different. This felt like we were building something for the end of the world." But why does this matter right now? Because this hideout represents something bigger. It's not just about one rich person wanting privacy. It's about a growing trend among super wealthy people. In the past 10 years, at least 40 billionaires have built secret hideouts around the world. Places that don't appear in property records. Places where even their own families don't know about. Places designed for one purpose, to completely disappear if needed. But this hideout in Patagonia, it's different. It's not the biggest, it's not the most expensive. But it's the most secret, the most advanced, and the most mysterious. The billionaire who owns it has never been photographed there. Has never mentioned it in any interview. The ownership is hidden behind 17 different fake companies in 8 countries. Now here's where things get really interesting. Let me tell you exactly where this place is, or more accurately, why you'll never find it even if I told you. The hideout sits somewhere in a 500 square mile area of Patagonian wilderness. That's about the size of Los Angeles. Now imagine trying to find one building in all of Los Angeles. Impossible, right? But it gets way harder than that. First, the building is almost completely underground. From above, all you see is what looks like natural rocks. That's it. No roof, no walls, no windows, just rocks that blend perfectly with everything around them. Special architects designed it this way. They studied the natural rocks in the area for 2 years before building anything. They matched the colors, the shapes, even the way shadows fall. From a helicopter flying over, you'd never spot it. But what about satellites? Can't they see everything from space? Here's where it gets really clever. The billionaire bought the rights to the airspace above this area. That means no planes can fly over it, no drones, nothing. It's a no-fly zone protected by the government. For satellites, they installed special technology on the surface that messes with camera systems. When satellites pass over this spot, the pictures come back blurry or weird, like trying to take a photo through a dirty, foggy window. One satellite expert looked at photos of this area and said, "Something's definitely wrong here. The images don't make sense, but without going there in person, you can't figure out what's causing it." And going there in person? Almost impossible. The hideout is surrounded by a 20-mile buffer zone. No roads lead to it, no trails. The land is privately owned and patrolled by security teams every hour of every day. They use drones, cameras, and sensors that detect any movement bigger than a rabbit. If you somehow got past all that, you'd face the terrain itself. Rocky cliffs that you can't climb, ice, fields that you can slip on, rivers with no bridges. The temperature drops below freezing most nights. Wild animals roam everywhere, limited cell phone service, and no help for miles if something goes wrong. But let's say you're super determined and lucky. You make it through the wilderness. You avoid the security patrols. You find the hidden entrance. What happens next? The entrance is disguised as an old, abandoned supply shed. It's been made to look like it's been sitting there rotting for decades. Rust on the metal, broken wood, dirt everywhere. Inside, there's what looks like a normal basement, concrete floor, some old dusty equipment, nothing interesting. But here's the secret. There's a hidden panel in the floor. To open it, you need 3 things that only 5 people in the entire world have. First, a special key card that changes its security code every 30 seconds. Second, you put your hand on a scanner that reads the veins under your skin. Not fingerprints, but the actual pattern of veins that's impossible to fake. Third, you speak a password while the computer analyzes your voice, your accent, even your breathing pattern. If you fail any of these, silent alarms trigger. The entrance automatically locks with steel bolts, and armed security arrives within 10 minutes. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. Once you get past that entrance, you drop down 200 feet on a high-speed elevator. That's like going down a 20-story building. The elevator is smooth, quiet, and fast. One person who wrote it said, "Your ears pop like you're in an airplane. When the doors open, you enter what can only be described as an underground palace. The main living area is massive, 15,000 square feet. That's bigger than most people's entire apartment building. The ceiling is 30 feet high, which is crazy for something underground. But here's what makes it feel unreal. The walls aren't walls. They're giant LED screens showing live video feeds from cameras on the surface. You can see the mountains, the sky, the clouds moving. It looks like you're standing in a glass house, not buried underground. These screens cost $12 million to install. They use special technology, originally designed for military command centers. The video quality is so good that your brain actually thinks you're looking through windows. Some visitors have tried to open the windows before realizing they're screens. The living space has everything you'd expect in a luxury home. A kitchen with equipment that professional chefs use. A dining table made from a single piece of wood that cost $400,000. Furniture shipped from Italy, France, and Japan. But then there are the things you wouldn't expect. A medical room with surgical equipment and enough supplies to perform major operations. Why? Because if something happens, you can't just call 911 from here. You need to handle emergencies yourself. A gym that would make professional athletes jealous. Not just basic equipment, but machines that cost $50,000 each. A pool that's 50 feet long. A sauna. A steam room. Everything you'd need to stay healthy for months or years without leaving. A movie theater with 20 seats and a screen that rivals what you'd find in actual theaters. The sound system alone costs $300,000. The owner has a collection of over 5,000 movies stored on private servers. A library with 10,000 books. First editions. Rare collections. Some books in there are worth more than a nice car. One of the people who's been inside said, "It felt like a museum. You're almost afraid to touch anything." But here's where it gets really intense. The Security Command Center. This is a room filled with screens showing every camera feed from the property. And there are a lot of cameras, over 200 of them covering every angle of the 20-mile zone around the hideout. The system uses artificial intelligence to detect threats. If a person walks into the zone, the AI knows within seconds. If a vehicle approaches, alarms sound. If a drone flies overhead, the system can jam its signals and force it to land. There's also a weapons vault. I can't get into too much detail, but let's just say the security team has access to equipment that would make you think twice about trying to break in. Now, you might be wondering, why so much security? What's the owner afraid of? That brings us to the most shocking part, the provisions. This hideout is designed to support 5 people for up to 10 years without any outside contact. 10 years. There's a water purification system that recycles every drop. A vertical farm growing vegetables under LED lights, freezers with enough food to last a decade, medicine, clothes, everything. The power comes from a combination of geothermal energy, heat from deep in the earth, and backup generators with enough fuel for years. There's even a machine that cleans and recycles the air, removing CO2 and adding oxygen. The same technology NASA uses on space stations. This isn't a vacation home. This isn't a luxury retreat. This is a survival bunker disguised as a palace. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. So who owns this place? And why did they build it? After 3 years of investigation, journalists finally discovered the owner, a tech billionaire named Marcus Voss. You've probably never heard of him, and that's exactly how he wants it. Marcus made his fortune from cybersecurity companies. He's worth an estimated $8.7 billion. But unlike Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, Marcus stays completely out of the public eye. No social media. No interviews. Only 3 photographs of him exist online. But here's what makes this story truly disturbing: why he built this hideout. Marcus isn't preparing for a nuclear war. He's not worried about zombies or aliens. He's preparing for something he believes is much more likely: a total collapse of society's systems. According to leaked emails obtained by journalists, Marcus believes that within the next 20 years, one of several catastrophic events will happen. First possibility: a massive cyber attack that shuts down power grids, banks, and communication systems worldwide. As a cybersecurity expert, Marcus knows exactly how vulnerable our systems are. He's seen the weaknesses, and he's convinced someone will eventually exploit them. Second possibility: climate change reaching a tipping point where food production collapses and billions of people become desperate. Mass migration, resource wars, governments falling apart. Third possibility: an artificial intelligence that becomes too powerful and starts making decisions that harm humanity. This might sound like science fiction, but many tech leaders worry about this. Marcus wrote in one email, "The question isn't if something catastrophic happens, it's when, and I refuse to be caught unprepared." So he built this hideout. But here's the part that really shows you how he thinks. He built it for 5 people only: himself, his wife, his 2 children, and 1 personal doctor. That's it. Nobody else gets in. Not his extended family, not his friends, not his employees who helped make him billions. Just 5 people. When someone asked him about this decision, according to a former employee, Marcus said, "You can't save everyone. Trying to save everyone means saving no one. I'm saving my family. That's the most I can do." This mindset reveals something chilling about how some billionaires see the future. They're not trying to fix problems. They're not working to prevent catastrophes. They're just building escape pods for themselves while the rest of us deal with whatever happens. And Marcus isn't alone. Remember those 40 other billionaires with secret hideouts? They're doing the same thing. Building their own private shelters, stockpiling resources, planning their escapes. One billionaire in Silicon Valley was asked about climate change at a conference. His response: "I'm not worried. I have a backup plan." He meant his hideout in New Zealand. Another billionaire was asked about wealth inequality and social unrest. He said, "I've taken steps to ensure my family's safety regardless of what happens." He has a bunker complex in Switzerland. These people see the problems coming. They have the money to help fix them. But instead, they're just protecting themselves. But here's the really crazy part. Even with all this preparation, experts say these hideouts probably won't work the way billionaires think they will. One survival expert who studies these facilities said they're planning for Hollywood movie scenarios, but real catastrophes don't work like movies. You can't just hide for 10 years and then come out when everything's fine. If society collapses, it won't rebuild quickly. These hideouts become very expensive prisons. Another expert pointed out a huge flaw. What happens when the security team realizes the billionaire needs them more than they need the billionaire? What stops the guards from just taking over? Some billionaires have actually thought about this. One reportedly considered putting disciplinary collars on his security team. Another suggested only hiring guards whose families lived nearby so they'd have motivation to stay loyal. The level of paranoia is stunning. So, what does all this mean for us today? Here's what this hideout and the mindset behind it tell us about the world we're living in. First, the ultra-wealthy see major problems coming: climate change, economic collapse, social unrest, cyber attacks. They're not ignoring these issues. They know about them. They're just choosing to protect themselves instead of helping solve them. Think about that for a second. Marcus Voss has $8.7 billion. With that money, he could fund climate research. He could invest in renewable energy. He could help communities prepare for disasters. He could support politicians working to fix these problems. Instead, he spent $2.3 billion on a bunker for 5 people. That's not practical. That's selfish. And it shows exactly what's wrong with how extreme wealth affects people's thinking. When you have billions of dollars, you stop seeing yourself as part of society. You start seeing yourself as separate from everyone else, above everyone else. And when problems come, you think, I'll just buy my way out. But here's the thing, you can't buy your way out of everything. If society collapses, money becomes worthless. Gold becomes worthless. All that matters is community, skills, and cooperation. A billionaire alone in a bunker, even a fancy one, is just a scared person waiting to run out of supplies. Meanwhile, communities that work together can survive almost anything. History proves this. When disasters strike, it's not the richest people who survive best. It's the most connected people, the ones with friends, neighbors, and skills to share. Second, this hideout represents a massive waste of resources. Imagine if that $2.3 billion went toward actually helping people. That money could build thousands of affordable homes. It could fund schools. It could provide clean water to millions. It could train workers for better jobs. Instead, it's buried in a mountain where 5 people might use it someday. Maybe. If Marcus's predictions come true. And here's the painful truth. If billionaires spent their money solving problems instead of hiding from them, those problems might never get bad enough to need hideouts. Climate change? Billionaires could fund massive renewable energy projects. Economic inequality? They could pay workers. Better wages. Social unrest? They could support education and opportunity. But they're not doing that. They're building bunkers. Third, this story should make you angry, but it should also make you think. What can regular people do about this? We can't build billion-dollar hideouts. We don't have private security teams. We can't just escape if things go bad. So what's our backup plan? The answer is actually simple: each other. When disasters happen, it's communities that survive. It's neighbors helping neighbors. It's people sharing resources and skills. It's cooperation, not isolation. You don't need $1 billion to prepare for an uncertain future. You need connections. You need skills. You need to know your neighbors. You need to be part of something bigger than yourself. Start building those connections now. Learn useful skills. Join community groups. Support local businesses. Vote for leaders who actually try to fix problems instead of ignoring them. Because here's what billionaires don't understand. Hideouts are prisons. Real security comes from living in a world where everyone's needs are met, where problems get solved instead of escaped from. Fourth, this story reveals how some billionaires see the rest of us. When Marcus Voss built a bunker for only 5 people, he made a statement, "My family matters. Everyone else doesn't." That's the logic of extreme wealth. Once you have more money than you could spend in 100 lifetimes, you stop seeing other people as equals. You see them as potential threats, as competition for resources, as problems to avoid. This is why billionaires build walls, hire guards, and create elaborate security systems. They're afraid of everyone else. And instead of fixing the things that make people desperate, they just try to protect themselves from desperation. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. Here's the final twist that connects everything together. Remember how I said only 5 people have been inside this hideout? Well, that number recently changed to 6. In early 2024, Marcus Voss brought someone new to the facility. Not a family member, not a doctor. A 19-year-old engineer who specializes in artificial intelligence and robotics. Why? Because Marcus realized something important. If he's hiding in a bunker for years, eventually things will break. Equipment will fail. Systems will need repairs. He can't fix everything himself. So he's training this young engineer to maintain the hideout, teaching them every system, every backup, every possible problem and solution. But here's the disturbing part. This engineer signed a contract that basically binds them to Marcus's family for life. If the catastrophe happens and they go into hiding, this person has to go with them. They don't get to bring their own family. They don't get a choice. Marcus is essentially buying a person's entire future just to have someone who can fix his stuff. When asked about this arrangement through a lawyer, Marcus said, "I'm providing this young person with an extraordinary opportunity and financial security. But is it really an opportunity? Or is it just showing how far billionaires will go to protect their comfort?" This story started with a mysterious hideout, but it's really about something much bigger. What happens when extreme wealth creates extreme separation between people. Marcus Voss isn't a villain in a movie. He's a real person who's so wealthy and so afraid that he's spending billions to avoid the problems he could help fix. And he's not alone. Dozens of billionaires are doing the same thing right now, building hideouts, stockpiling resources, planning escapes. Meanwhile, the rest of us are left to deal with whatever comes, together, as we always have. But here's the hope in all this: we don't need hideouts. We have something better. We have each other. We have communities. We have the ability to work together and solve problems. Billionaires can build all the bunkers they want, but at the end of the day, they'll be alone in the dark, wondering if their security systems still work. We'll be outside, in the light, helping each other survive and rebuild. That's the real secret they don't want you to know. You don't need billions to have security. You just need people who care about each other, and no amount of money can buy that. If this story shocked you, hit that like button and share it. Subscribe for more investigations into the hidden world of the ultra-wealthy. Remember, the future isn't built by people hiding in bunkers. It's built by people working together to make things better. Which side are you on?
If you like this information, so please like, share, and subscribe my channel.